All right, my friends, J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody being here with me today. I just hit the go button, so let's make sure everything is coming through correctly. As always, I ask if you wouldn't mind, say hello into the chat. And as always, if you have any questions, please chat or ask them in the chat box there beside you. And I'm going to go ahead and put a link if you would like to call in and be on video, or simply just call in. If you are the kind of person that I don't really want to be on a camera, no problem. You can effectively just kind of call a friend, which is me, and I'd be happy to listen to any kind of comment you like to make or whatever questions you may have. That's why I do this. It's all about having that conversation and education in our community. I want to say a quick hello to all my free-minded friends out there. Definitely appreciate you being with me today. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Again, I'm J.R. Dukes. I'm all about ending indoctrination and helping everybody live their best life possible through information, understanding your rights under law, asset protection, civil cases, criminal cases, how to deal with the police, basically current events. That's what I really enjoy talking about. Again, if you have any issues hearing me, let me know, please. I want to say hello to our friends on the X platform. Welcome. I am on X simply at Reach J.R. Dukes. Right here on YouTube. As always, you can find me at J.R. Dukes. My website is jrdukes.com. That site, you can always find whatever platform that I may be on at that particular time. And hello to our friend on Twitch. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Appreciate everybody being here with me. What a day. What a week. It's definitely a good time when you're winning, isn't it? I love it. After all that work, all that time that we have spent, blood, sweat, tears, hearing from the other side how we're going to lose. It's all over. It's hopeless. You might as well just give it up. And finally, to have a fantastic day like this election day. And you know, folks, let's be honest about it. We knew from 2016 and the election results that the polling was terrible. They promised to correct it. 2020, kind of the same thing. Even though Donald Trump technically lost, the polls were way off. They predicted effectively a landslide for Joe Biden. I believe the last polls were showing Joe Biden up 7 or 8%. And of course, that never materialized. Same thing with the polling that's been going on for 2024. The polls were just wrong. The closest polls was, I would say, basically Rasmussen, the one that we normally talk about on this program. It was more accurate as far as predicting Donald Trump's victory, generally 3-4%, depending on the state. And of course, they are still counting some of the votes. I will say, in my opinion, it looks like they're going to try to steal the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, but we'll see exactly how that goes. As time allows tonight, we're going to talk about that. So welcome to the Power Hour, J.R. Dukes. And we also are going to be presenting in the Dukes feed, as I call it. One of the things we're going to look at there, hopefully, is going to be what's going on in Pennsylvania. Despite the Supreme Court saying definitively you cannot count certain ballots that do not have a signature or do not meet the date requirement, you have the politicians there, the local officials, if you will, basically saying, hey, we're going to count them anyway. So we'll just have to wait and see exactly how that transpires. And hello to my friend Zach. It's always good to have you in the program. And good. I'm glad that you got to visit with Sapphire for a while. It's always a pleasure to have you in the program. Thank you so much, my friend. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started on this, because I want to talk about there's just a lot of fast developing events, I guess is the best way to say it, as far as what's going on with Donald Trump and his cabinet picks. So one other thing too, we have to talk about Fani Willis here shortly. There's some new developments in the Fani Willis saga, so we need to catch up as to what's going on. I'm going to share a couple stories that's currently in the news pertaining to Fani Willis. And of course, Fani Willis is of Atlanta, Georgia fame, the DA there that has definitely put her sights on President-elect Donald Trump. And apparently she is not going to give up the ghost. She doesn't know when she's lost. But I have a feeling, my friends, this is not going to work well if she does not change her ways, just like Letitia James in New York State. We'll just have to see exactly how that all turns out. So, all right, let's take a look at the latest post from Donald Trump, and then we will continue and move on to the next thing here. Statement from President Donald Trump. So he's making his cabinet appointments effectively. And it says, I'm pleased to announce my intent to nominate for Congress Doug Collins of Georgia for the VA, for the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I think that's going to be a great choice. He also posted that he's going to he's announcing Dean John Sawyer will serve as Solicitor General of the United States. I think that's another good choice. And what I think is really good, and this is one of Donald Trump's attorneys, is my understanding, that is Todd Blanche. I am pleased to announce Todd Blanche will serve as my Deputy Attorney General in my administration. Todd is an excellent attorney who will be a critical leader in the Justice Department, fixing what has been a broken system of justice for far too long. Todd prosecuted gangs and other federal crimes, and as a chief in the Southern District of New York, United States Attorney's Office, he clerked for 2 federal judges and graduated with honors from law school. So he definitely is a well-accomplished attorney and clearly has the credentials to be in this position, which I think, of course, is what Donald Trump's trying to find. He wants someone, obviously, that's qualified, but as evident with the Matt Gaetz pick for the U.S. Attorney General, he wants to take a blowtorch to all of these organizations and put a stop to all this lawfare and all this, I guess, just nastiness that's been going on. Hey, Sapphire, glad to have you here today with us. Thank you. And yeah, Todd is excellent. I agree with you. By the way, Sapphire has a channel at Sapphire Ridge News. I encourage each and every one of you who's got a newer channel starting out. He's got great commentary on court cases and different current events. Be sure to check him out at Sapphire Ridge News. It's good to have you here with me, my friend. All right, we're going to continue on right here. Give me just one sec. My voice has been pretty good all day, but it seems like it wants to give me a little bit of a fit right now, but that happens occasionally. So, all right, let's continue, move on. These were in the last 2 or 3 hours. He's nominating Jay Clayton of New York, chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And, of course, I'm sure you've heard this by now in the news. This is a big one. We're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as United States Secretary of Health and Human Services. So this is part of his pledge to make America healthy again. I know there's a lot of criticism with the RFK nomination. I would say in large part, people are concerned because, let's be honest about it, we perceive him as being out there when it comes to vaccines and some other health-related issues. But at this particular point, I think it's a good idea to give someone like him a try and see what he can do with basically making Americans healthy again. I'm not sure how much influence these people have on the American population in general, but let's be honest about it. Too many of our children are fat. Too many of us are fat, period, right? It could be the case that maybe there are some changes that need to be made as far as recommendations and this type of stuff in the Department of Human Services. We'll just have to see how this all turns out. But I'm willing to give the president and his team the benefit of the doubt. We elected him. He won in what can only be described as a major landslide in political history. Frankly, Donald Trump, as we have talked about many times in this program, this is a modern day American political legend that has been made. I mean, Donald Trump's going to live in history like Ronald Reagan, but probably even greater. Ronald Reagan, at the time when I was growing up, he was vilified. He was constantly being hammered by the other side. I don't think they fully appreciated how good of a president Ronald Reagan is. And of course, today we look at him with a different, I would just say a different look through the prism of time. And I think Donald Trump is already viewed like that, but will be viewed even more so in the coming decades to come. But we will wait and see exactly how that turns out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch from this here. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and we will put them on here. And yeah, Sapphires, let us know. Charlie Kurt. Oh, yeah, that would be a good Secretary of Education. I like old Charlie right there. That would be a good play. I want to switch over and let's take a look at some of the Fani Willis stuff that I've been telling you about. All right. So this first thing here, it's interesting how they don't bring any of this information out. And just for a quick background, we all know sweet Fani Willis. We're talking about the district attorney from Fulton County, Georgia. And if you remember, she and her lover boy, Nathan Wade, that she allegedly broke up with sometime after they started their affair. Allegedly, they met, fell in love, had their relationship, whatever the situation is, sometime after November 2021. I don't believe the evidence supports that at all. I think this is a complete lie. Fulton County has been known for years and years, my friend, as a corrupt county. It was, as a matter of fact, it was JFK years ago that had to call the officials in Fulton County and have them release somebody known as Martin Luther King Jr. Had it not been for JFK, there would never have been an RFK, because they would have simply kept him in jail and lost the room. Does that make any sense? They were known for corruption. They were known for, if they didn't like you, they thought you were a troublemaker, especially in Fulton County, they just put you in a jail cell and they just lost you. You were just gone. As a matter of fact, Fani Willis is under a lot of pressure, as you can see by this story right here. We've talked about this on this program. The Fulton County Jail, obviously, she's spending all the money and trying to make a name for herself by going after Donald Trump and the alleged J6 co-conspirators and hammering all these people, instead of taking that money and taking care of the prisoners in their custody. Isn't it ironic, interesting, maybe even criminal, that this report did not come out till now? This is dated November 14th, today's date, 2024. This report could have and should have came out way before the election. The truth is, we all knew and all know what's going on in the Fulton County Jail, and it's not good. And I know some of us may say, oh, well, these are prisoners that's in the jail. They're bad. They've committed crimes. They deserve to have some type of punishment or some kind of, they're in jail after all, right? You're supposed to be punished if you're in jail. Well, the reality is you're innocent until proven guilty. Just because you're arrested does not mean you're guilty. Again, something I love to talk about on this program has to do with arrest, being arrested, and whether you're guilty, innocent, whatnot. But the point here is she is not doing what she's supposed to do under law, under the Constitution of the United States, frankly. And that is, she is responsible for all these prisoners in her custody. She's supposed to make sure and ensure that their health, welfare, and safety is taken care of at all times. And she is not doing that whatsoever. Give me 1 second, take another step right. I'm back. We'll see. Sorry about that, my friends. I really had a good day. I don't know why I'm getting congestion all of a sudden, but I will tell you, here in Florida, finally starting to cool off just a little bit. It's been so hot this year, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of cooler weather starting to come on down this way, I guess, about the best way to say it. So let's talk about our sweet Fani and this reporter. This is a press release. Justice Department finds conditions at Fulton County Jail in Georgia violate Constitution and federal law. I'm not going to read this whole document, but I want to just kind of touch the highlights. The Justice Department announced today its findings that conditions of confinement at the Fulton County Jail, aka the jail, in Georgia violate the 8th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and Individuals with Disability Education Act. The department reports details its finding from a comprehensive investigation of the jail, funded and operated by Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. The investigation included the main jail in Atlanta and 3 annex facilities: the Marietta Annex in Atlanta, the North Annex of Alpharetta. Fulton County, just so you know, it's kind of a long county. It goes all the way up into the wealthy suburb of what they call Alpharetta on the north side of Fulton County. And then on the south side, you have it stretching all the way down, going towards the city of Clayton. All right, the investigation included the main jail, Atlanta, Alpharetta, the South Annex at Union City. And yeah, Union City is probably a better way to describe where it ends, but it's just a really irregular shaped county. It looks like a piece of gum that you've pulled. So that's kind of the way that it's stretched out right there. The jail currently houses around 2,000 people, and in recent years has surpassed 3,000 people. Remember, there are individuals in this jail, other reports that we have read about the jail, that have been in this jail for years without even a hearing before a judge. That's unconscionable. That's not supposed to happen in the United States. You're not you're in jail, but it's more like you're lost. It's like you're in the system and there's no way for you to get out. You're supposed to be seen in jail within a reasonable amount of time, which of course is in the 8th and 14th amendments to the Constitution. That's what they're talking about here. They have individuals that have been reported to die in this particular jail. It says we cannot turn a blind eye to the inhumane, violent, and hazardous conditions that the people are subjected to inside the Fulton County Jail, says Assistant Attorney General Clark of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. It says detention in the Fulton County Jail has amounted to a death sentence for dozens of people who have been murdered or died as a result of the atrocious conditions inside the facility. It's not just adults, but also children who are subjected to conditions and treatment that violate the Constitution and defy federal law. Many people in jails in our country have not been convicted and are awaiting hearing, trials dates, or are serving short sentences for misdemeanors. At the end of the day, people do not abandon their civil or constitutional rights at the jailhouse door. Amen. We talk about this all the time. Jails and prisons across the country must protect the people from the kind of gross violations and unconstitutional conditions that we have uncovered here. We hope our findings report sounds an alarm that will prompt the Fulton County officials to work with the Justice Department to implement the reforms necessary to ensure constitutional conditions going forward. How about that? How'd you like to be in a hotel or any type of living accommodation, and the standard is constitutional conditions? Just meet the standards of the Constitution. Does not sound like any type of place I would want to be in. I mean, that's pretty scary. It's amazing she gets away with this. I really hope they're able to go to court, sue, and get some immediate injunctions. If they have to, close down the damn jail. I don't care. You cannot allow people to be put in a jail that is exhibiting these type of conditions. It's inhumane, and it violates the law. It just violates it. And, it's not a death sentence. It's not supposed to be a death sentence to get arrested for some type of minor, trivial type of whatever. You end up in Fani Willis's jail and you don't make it home ever. Absolutely unconscionable and should not happen in the United States of America. All right. It says that following an extensive investigation, the department concludes that Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office routinely violate the rights of people incarcerated in the jail. This is their specific findings, and then we'll move on here. Fails to protect the people from substantial risk of serious harm from violence or by other incarcerated people, including homicides, stabbings, and sexual abuse. It says also they house incarcerated people in unconstitutional living conditions that are unsanitary and dangerous. You can imagine what that looks like, right? Fails to provide adequate medical and mental health services to incarcerated people, uses solitary confinement. And I just highlighted that there on your screen, and if you're able to read it, uses solitary confinement in discipline or in discriminatory and unconstitutional ways that exposes incarcerated people, including 17-year-old children, to those with mental health disabilities to substantial harm. This solitary confinement, we have not talked enough about it on this channel. And again, you have to understand, just because you're in this jail does not mean you are guilty of any crime. When you put someone in solitary confinement, it is literally mental abuse. And if there's anything in my life I have an opportunity to change, it would be putting people in solitary confinement. It should not be allowed in the United States. It shouldn't be allowed anywhere. You may be familiar with something called the Geneva Conventions, which essentially is a agreed by treaty standards, rules of war, if you will. Well, one of the rules is that if you capture someone's prisoners, you are not allowed to put them in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement will destroy your mind. It just will. You'll be just a blabbering, pile that we'll never see you again. You will deteriorate and essentially go into some type of psychosis in your mind. And if you don't believe me, just do a little experiment. Just go into your bathroom in your house, turn off the lights, no phones, no nothing, and just sit in there and see how long you enjoy the experience. Because, folks, when you deprive a human being, I mean, we're supposed to be seeing, hearing, thinking, touching, talking, whatever. When you deprive someone of their ability to have communication, to use our senses, you will go crazy. And it is not something that is talked about enough, but it is a very serious problem. And I don't understand why we allow it in this country. That's outrageous. And then finally, fails to provide special education services to 17-year-old boys and girls who are entitled to those services while they are incarcerated in jail. So it continues to go on into a lot of different breakdown here, but this is essentially, at least in my experience, this is kind of a warning shot to the Fulton County Jail. We have found you in violation. If you do not change your ways very soon, we're going to go ahead and go to federal court, and we're going to take serious punitive action, which is exactly what they should do. And we'll just have to see how that turns out. I will keep you posted at any developments, because I have filters on my computer that are definitely focused on Fani's Fani, if you know what I'm saying, because I want to make sure that when I find news out about her, I want to make sure I share it with you. And this is a serious news story, and we can't allow it to just disappear. Let me switch over to comments real quick, see if anybody has any questions on this right here. Appreciate Zach being here, Sapphire again, and American Nanda. Thank you so much for being here. It might be a blessing that Fani is still DA. Will make a better story when justice goes calling her. I totally agree with you. First of all, unfortunately, she won her re-election bid against that attorney from Alpharetta she was running against. But you have to understand, it's Fulton County, although they have wealthy areas and a whole big mix of people. I mean, it is kind of a melting pot. It's unfortunately minority, aka heavily black in that particular area. There's a lot of poor blacks in that area. In addition to that, the saddest part of it is it's the county seat, which means they handle a lot of the affairs, the legal affairs, if you will, on behalf of the state. And it's a very populated county. It is not the fact that the people are black necessarily. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of voters that are black vote Democratic, and she is the Democratic candidate in that area. And yes, when you are a black candidate, you generally attract more votes. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish I could stop this race nonsense in America. Even saying what I'm saying generally would outrage people, or at least people will tell you should be outraged by what I'm telling you, which is nonsense. But I always tell you on my channel exactly how I see it, and you can agree or disagree, and I'm happy to discuss it with you further. But the reality is, we are all brothers and sisters in Christ. There is no such thing as race. Race is a man-made term, period. In the Bible, Christ calls it kind. We're all a Pacific kind. We are humankind. We are human brothers and sisters in Christ, and it's just that simple. And I wish before anybody voted that they give careful consideration to why they vote the way they vote. Frankly, why they do whatever they do. I think it's just that simple. But thank you for that comment, American Anna, and thank you for being here with me once again. Yeah, and she did both. No bueno. And my friend Zach, I like to see an itemized list of how the jail funds were allegedly. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm very confident that there's all kinds of, let's just call it malfeasance going on with the facilities or the money that's supposed to be allocated to run those facilities. And I hope there's a lot of oversight. I will tell you this. I believe that our new President Trump-elect is not going to allow these people to get away with their continuing nonsense. Even the state of Georgia, they're being very deliberate and careful about it, but they have started that Senate commission, and they are supposed to be monitoring these AGs and the solicitors that have power to bring charges. And this commission, to my understanding, has the power to remove a rogue DA, a rogue solicitor, whatever their title is, should they be found guilty of effectively violating rights, not doing what they should be doing. And to be very clear about this, it's very obvious that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and a whole list of other people that have worked with them have definitely committed perjury, have definitely broken laws, have definitely done things that they should be held accountable for. They have went after our president-elect now and many other people. And it's clear that the testimony they're trying to hang these people with, at least in my mind, it's clear that this testimony is false, fabricated, misconstrued, whatever you want to call it. It's just like Fani Willis saying and explaining why she has so much cash in her home, yet she has no receipts for anything that she allegedly did when she was with her boyfriend, Nathan Wade. It's just these people think we're stupid, and they think they can get away with it because they think because of their position, nobody's going to come after them, say anything, or hold them to account. And I just don't think that is I don't think that's going to be the new rule going forward. I just don't think it is. And you are right, Sapphire. It's a prosecutor's ethics commission. They actually have for judges what they call canons. And the canons are just rules for judges. And there are similar canons, or as Sapphire was saying, ethics. They literally have ethics rules that a lawyer, an attorney, a prosecutor, DA is supposed to adhere by. It's just that simple. When you work in the court system, it's not a right. Just because you go to college and you get a law degree does not give you a right to practice law. It's considered a privilege. That's the reason why attorneys and judges, they receive effectively a license to practice their vocation. But what they call it in the courtroom, they call it an officer of the court. You're an officer of the court. You have a duty above and beyond winning your case to do justice, to do whatever is in the interest of justice. For example, if a DA like Fani Willis has evidence that someone she's prosecuting is actually innocent, she has to turn over that evidence to the other side. That's just one quick example of what they're supposed to do. But of course, they never do that. Or I should say, some of the DAs don't do that. So, excuse me. So what happens is whenever they act on behalf of the people, the public, they're supposed to follow these rules because the interest of justice is supposed to be their primary motivation, their primary goal. It does not matter if they win or lose in the eyes of the court. They represent the public, and they're supposed to do what justice demands, requires of them to do. And in my opinion, people like Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, they're not meeting that very high and strict bar. I think it's just that simple. American Anna, let's see here. To be honest, people's demographic area don't sit on YouTube looking or researching government. They think it's Democrats. The thinking is Democrats are for the poor. Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And Zach, my friend, doctors don't take the Hippocratic Oath anymore. My understanding is they do take the Hippocratic Oath, and it's very similar to attorneys. As a doctor, it's a privilege to be a doctor. You don't have a right to be a doctor just because you went to medical school. You have to uphold many rules and many things that you are responsible to follow. And one of the things is the Hippocratic Oath, which is effectively do no harm. So great point on that. American Anna, not sure, Zach, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. Yep. Thanks, Sapphire. You guys are exactly on the ball. I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate the good comments. So again, if you just joined the program, any comments, questions, put them in the comments here. I'd love to chat with you. Also, there is a link if you'd like to call in or if you'd like to be on camera, feel free to do so. Just follow the link that I put in the chat, and I'd be happy to have you on the program. I just re-put it in the program again so that y'all would have it. Oh, we got Rosemary joining us. Appreciate having you here with us as always. All right, let's take a look at this new story here. This is another one on Sweet Fani Willis. Okay, what's called ANF, Atlanta News First. Full interview. Fani Willis sits down with Atlanta News First to talk Trump, YSL, and a second term. Of course, she has won her second term. We are all very familiar with what Fani Willis has been up to in the shenanigans she's been engaging in. But like any good politician, she has a way to spin it and act like she's doing the good of the people. She's doing the most honorable thing. We all know that that's a bunch of nonsense. You know it, I know it. But we're going to take a quick listen and see what she has to say. I think you'll find it interesting. So let me, I can blow this up full screen and let's take a quick listen.
DA Fani Willis says some of the biggest accomplishments of her first term happened outside of the courtroom. Her team cleared a decade's worth of backlogged cases, 18,000 of them, some dating back to 2014. She started a pre-indictment diversion program that already has seen 300 people graduate with no jail time, and the DA's mentorship program is now working with 500 kids in 20 local schools.
I'm really proud of our first term in office, and I say
yeah, she's like a real saint, isn't she?
Because it's definitely been a team effort. The first thing that I did is amazing is I put together a team of dedicated professionals. I think the best in the business, and we can compete anywhere in the country. And that was the first step to making progress. The second thing that we did that is just really helpful to the community and to the citizens is when we got here, there were more than 18,000 cases unindicted. Those cases went back from 2014 through 2020. We were able to clear up all of those cases, bringing resolutions either in indicting them or dismissing them, but certainly moving on with them. The thing that I am happiest about is our REACH program, where in our inaugural year, we went into 6 schools and we touched 150 children. Well, we're now up to 20 schools.
I'll let this continue to play. She's just kind of blowing smoke, if you know what I mean. Just talk about what a great person she is and what a great job she's doing on behalf of Fulton County. Notably, she's not going to say anything about what's going on in the Fulton County Jail. She's not going to talk about anything that is true pertaining to Donald Trump and her abuse of her power, in my estimation. But we'll continue to listen to this for a second.
People, we've had 700 people enroll. And then let's talk about crime reduction. All of these strategies and our tough on crime, violent crime especially, have made crime go down. Violent crime is down more than 20%. So I'm extremely proud of the first 4 years. But when I came here, I was on a 12-year plan. And so I continue to be on that 12-year plan. And we have really big plans for term 2.
Well, let's talk about it. What does the middle 4 years of this plan look like for you?
Well, the middle plan looks like some dreams come true.
She says she's on a 12-year plan. What's that about? Is that a wink that we're going to continue, or you need to continue to send me back to this job because you can't judge me on what I'm doing anytime soon? Kind of interesting. By the way, Matt, thank you so much for the super chat. Matt Smith in the house. Appreciate every time you're here. Thank you for your contribution and supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. Thank you again so much. We're going to continue.
One of the things that I want to do is we want to have a family violence center. And what that is that's for domestic violence victims. It's one-stop shopping. When a woman is fleeing with her children in a domestic violence situation, she doesn't have the time or the resources to go here for one piece of aid and here for another. She's often displaced. She only has the clothes on her and her children's back, and she needs someplace safe to go.
She's gonna have a tear well up in my eye here the way she's talking. You know, I obviously me, we see right through her BS. But
so we want a one-stop shop for our domestic violence victims so they can get all the services that they need. I also want a domestic violence court because I need judges that are trained on how to deal with domestic violence victims. We know the reality is most DV victims go back 7 times because it's not a one-dimensional thing. He's not always mean. He's not always violent. Sometimes he's nice. Sometimes he takes care of them. And it's your family. And so it's...
I don't know about you, but it's not just women that are domestic violence victims anymore, but I digress.
Way 2 is we are starting a human trafficking task force. And that's going to be not only the district attorney's office, but a lot of our law enforcement partners so that we can really take hit.
I wish you would stop focusing on the human trafficking side of it and start taking care of the prisoners that are literally dying in her jail and in her custody.
The entire story, but we're going to continue to be aggressive in our prosecution of gangs so that we can keep crime at a minimum here in Fulton County.
Yeah, well, let me kind of go right off of that. And one of the hallmark cases of your first term was the YSL RICO case. A lot of big developments in that since the last time we talked. Obviously, the kind of the key mark, I guess, defendant, Young Thug, took a plea deal. You've been working so hard on this case. It took a long time to put together, and it's taken a long time to get to this point. Were you happy with the outcome? Do you think that Judge Whitaker made the right decision?
It's funny. I think the public still needs an educational point on YSL. YSL was a RICO indictment with 28 defendants. At this point, 14 of those defendants have been disposed. One was dismissed, and 13 have taken pleas, which means they've taken responsibility for their crimes. But we still have 14 defendants that have to finish their justice. And so it limits what I can say about it. But what I can tell you is the approach of that indictment, the approach will stay the same as we enter into the second term.
But a few criminal cases dominated the headlines in her first 4 years, none more so than her prosecution of Donald Trump and some of his allies for election.
Before we get into this subject, I just want to point out real quick that Fani Willis in this YSL case, by the way, my friend over on my friend Mark over on Sapphire Ridge News, he does an excellent job giving commentary on this case. So if you're interested, make sure you check his channel on that, because he does a lot of commentary specifically on the YSL case. Matter of fact, he talks to me about it occasionally. They made a terrible mistake. And of course, you can imagine Fani Willis making a mistake, right? This is the reason why you never prosecute that many defendants at one time. I think they had 25, 30 defendants in one case, and they expect a single jury to sit there for 1-2 years. And if you've been following the case was just a complete basket case. It was just messed up almost immediately. And they went through at least 2 different judges. I know that last judge, he kind of left involuntarily. As a matter of fact, he was the head judge, and he was violating rights by having secret meetings with the prosecution. You just can't do that. But anyway, I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole on this, but what I will say is that the attorney Brian Steele did an excellent job representing YSL. I don't recall exactly what the plea deal was, but he substantially got a much lower sentence than what he would have got for something like had he been convicted of actual murder or whatever it was that his official charges were. He got some kind of plea deal, and I think that is good job. Good job for his attorney, Brian Steele. Brian Steele's known in Atlanta as being a very good defense attorney. And he, once again, proved it in this particular case, at least in my estimation. So here we're going to listen quickly pertaining to her recent comments on Donald Trump.
Crimes in Georgia. The future of Trump's case becomes murkier after Trump's re-election. A Supreme Court ruling earlier this year made it tougher to prosecute presidents for things they do on the job. Willis indicated she still plans to pursue charges against Trump. The other big hallmark case, obviously, is still also ongoing. So tell me what you can about it. But, with the re-election of now President-elect Donald Trump, he was also at the center of the election indictment. What do you do now? Because we've got this Supreme Court precedent now that says sitting presidents really can't be charged for some of the things that they did in office, with him now having the protection of the White House. How do you proceed as it relates to just his portion of this case?
I'm not going to talk to you about a case. Let me talk to you about a young lawyer, and a lawyer that's got a little age on her. When I became a lawyer, I believe that all the smartest people were the judges, right? That's who rose to the top. I've been a little disheartened as I've gone on to practice law. But what I can tell you about me as a district attorney, I didn't indict anyone who I did not believe committed a crime in any case.
Yeah,
and
right.
all of our more serious felony cases were indicted because a grand jury decided that there was enough evidence there.
What she doesn't tell you, you already probably know this. The old expression is you can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. That's not a high bar. Basically, you have the district attorney in front of some men and women, and you tell them, this is the case, this is your evidence, and whether or not you like them to indict, and they do whatever you say. It's very much the exception not to have a grand jury come back with what they call a true bill, or AKA an indictment. I can absolutely positively assure you that. And in this case, we know exactly what happened in this case. This was nothing less than a political, not prosecution, persecution of President Donald Trump elect. And unfortunately, the people that have already been convicted or took plea deals, this was what you call roadkill or collateral damage. They just happened to be around Donald Trump, and she ran them all over to make a name for herself.
To indict them. And so it is our plan, if someone has an indictment in this office, no matter who they are, we continue to pursue those charges. I can't be responsible for what judges and what courts will do. That will be decisions that they make, but I hope we get to see a little courage in leaders, and that that young lawyer from 30 years ago will continue to believe in the judicial system. Because
oh yeah, I don't know about you, it almost makes me nauseated to have to listen to her nonsense. That sorry I had to put you guys through that, but I did want you to kind of get a feel for the BS that's coming out of her mouth. Generally, I try to always just bring up important updates because, like I said, she just lies. Every time she opens her mouth, she lies, and she's talking about, she's trying to paint herself as this attorney that's been an attorney for many years, and she has felt ever since she was a young attorney that there was just something special about the American justice system. And that everything she does is not because of her ambition, but because she truly believes people to have committed a crime and wants them held accountable, no matter if they're powerful, rich, poor, whatever. And of course, we know that's a bunch of muck. We know that this woman is, in my opinion, she's a crook. In my opinion, she's unethical. In my opinion, she should be disbarred. And I hope that Donald Trump, and you guys know I have been wanting this lawfare to stop. I really don't want to even see initially Donald Trump, our president-elect, to frankly go after her, Letitia James. I was hoping somehow, some way, he could just simply set the example and say, hey, I'm going to stop this. This is how we're going to stop it, and I'm not going to seek retribution from you evil people. Unfortunately, I think that's out the window. I don't think it can be stopped. I think the only way to stop it is Donald Trump to have the right people running the Department of Justice and doing like his one attorney, Mike Davis, said the other day, and that is to hold these criminals accountable for this lawfare, for what they have done. Hold them accountable for engaging in this lawfare. I think it's just that simple. Donald Trump did not commit any crime. She should have known that he would be essentially wrapping himself in the cloak of you cannot prosecute him for any alleged crimes he did while he was president of the United States. It's never been officially decided before by the Supreme Court, but she should have known it. Why? Because the Supreme Court back in 1981-82, pertaining to some case from Richard Nixon, decided that a president could never be civilly liable for any official acts he performed in office. That was the end of it. And in legal courts and legal circles, if the doctrine applies on a civil level, it generally is going to apply on a criminal level. And I'll give you a quick example. It's just like police nowadays. They have what's called qualified immunity. Now, I don't want to get off on that discussion because I think there's some problems with that, some very serious problems with that. But a president of the United States cannot be subjected to the whims of all these 2,300 plus or minus solicitors, prosecutors, attorney generals that may have political ambitions that basically want to take a shot at him. And I'll address one other point on this. I've had someone email me and they're like, hey, listen, if Donald Trump is innocent or the people around him are innocent, why is there so many people that pled guilty? Well, it's real simple. There are a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen, that plead guilty in a court of law, but they're innocent. They're actually innocent. And you're thinking, oh, no way, Jared, that's crazy. That can't be the way it is, my friends. That is the way it is. And that's the reason why I talk a lot about the law on my channel, why you have to be careful of what you say to a police officer or any law enforcement official for that matter, because it can and will be used against you, whether you're guilty or whether you're innocent. Why would someone plead guilty to something that they did not do? It's real simple. You control the outcome of the case. In other words, if you go to trial, you might end up serving 15, 20, 30 years. With this RICO statute that she hammered each of these individuals with, my understanding in the state of Georgia, RICO carries a mandatory 20 years per offense. You can easily be looking at life. These RICO charges, and RICO is an acronym basically for racketeering, internally corrupt organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, it was never meant to be used in this type of situation. They passed these laws to go after mobsters, to go after international crime families, this type of stuff. It was never meant to go after a president that was fighting for what he thought was his rights under law for a particular election result, or to go after the people that were around him. This woman here indicted, and as I said, got convictions, voluntary convictions, they pled it out against attorneys that were representing the president and representing his campaign. They were giving and executing their best legal advice. These people collaborated and decided to go after President Trump and his cronies, if you will, the people around him, because he said he was going to be running for president. They didn't go after him until after he declared he was going to run for president again. And then they hatched this plan. And we know it was conspired. How do we know it was conspired? It's a lot of evidence that's all over the place. First of all, the number 3 official at the Biden Justice Administration, remember that guy? We've talked about him in depth. He quit his cushy government job at the DOJ and went to work for Letitia James and Alvin Bragg out there in New York State. Basically, that was Biden's man in New York to help with the prosecution/persecution of President Donald Trump elect. It's just that simple. In addition to that, there are other individuals working in the full county government that have direct links to President Biden. And I'll finally say this, there are documents and testimony now supporting the fact that Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and others people went to the White House and had several meetings with Kamala Harris and President Biden, specifically Kamala Harris. Now, what does that tell you? You think they were just there for a White House tour? Or do you think there was something nefarious going on? And you and I both know exactly what was going on. So anyway, let me catch up on these chats. Matt, thank you again. That's a second super chat. I appreciate that. You definitely, you just need to know it's definitely appreciated that you support the channel like that. I really do appreciate you and all of y'all that tune in and support the channel. If you want to do something for free for me, y'all can hit the thumbs up button. We got 30 some people here on YouTube, 38 right now, I think, on YouTube alone. If you want to hit the thumbs up button, it'll get the algorithm say, hey, we're going to push this out to more people. So you can do that for free. If you'd like to do that, I would appreciate it. Hello to our friend on Twitch and everyone on the X platform. Appreciate all y'all being here. I don't have a number on the X platform. It doesn't always work seamlessly with StreamYard and X, but I know that I get a ton of followers on X, and I appreciate everyone on the X platform for being here today. Yeah, we're up to 51 right now. So again, thank y'all so much for tuning in and being with us. So I just think this lawfare is a serious threat to our democracy, to our way of life. And it's this type of behavior that can seriously undermine our country. And I know there's a lot of rhetoric out there and a lot of people blowing smoke, a threat to democracy, the end of our country. And I get that. Most of us hear that nonsense and we think, oh, well, whatever. But this is real. This is a real threat to democracy. This is the kind of corruption that brings down a country. We're no better than a third world country that takes out their leaders, or the party in power takes out the leader or leaders of the party that's not in power so they can secure more power for themselves. This is something that can literally cause the United States to fall. And don't think it can't happen. Every country that's ever existed on the face of the earth has fallen. That's true. Oftentimes I cite the great Roman Empire. There's a reason they're not around today, and one of the many reasons is corruption. It's really just that simple. So let me check, see if anybody's got any questions while we go down here on it. Christopher, thank you for being here. And let's see what we got here. Matt, let's see, the United States. Yeah, it's a meritocracy. You make it awesome. You're amazing. That's exactly right. And thank you, Matt. I appreciate your comments. We need to exercise the merit and meritocracy. It means exactly how it sounds. We don't want to have a country where we're just giving money out and handing money out. Like you have the Biden Harris administration paying off the student loans. It's basically an effort to it's a de facto way to buy votes. That's exactly what it is. And even though the Supreme Court told them twice, you cannot do that. It's illegal. You simply cannot take money, which is what they're doing. They're taking money from nurses, painters, HVAC people, electricians, and they're paying off the loans of lawyers and doctors. It's just complete and absolute nonsense. If you take out a loan, you need to pay back the loan. And as Matt here is telling us, you need to work. You need to work your butt off and earn via merit the money that you need to live, the money you need to pay off your bills. You don't want to live in a country that is simply taking from one group of people and giving it to another group. That's nothing but socialism or communism. And my friends, we do not want anything like that here in America. Again, that's the reason why with this immigration problem, why are they letting in all these immigrants? It's real simple. It's a power grab by the Democrats. In their minds, they were thinking this is a way to lock up power forever. They were going to lock up all the power and keep it for themselves. That's exactly what they were thinking. But this last election, one of the many things I love about this last election is it has proven that the Latinos are not going to vote the way they think they're going to vote. They figured, oh, they're a minority, they're Latinos, they're new to the country, they're going to vote Democrat, basically like a lot of the black vote does in our country. Every election cycle, they're just going to go ahead and vote for the Democrats. And that's not true. That's not going to happen. Donald Trump proved that. You had 55% of Latino men vote for Donald Trump, and approximately 45% of the women, Latino women, vote for Donald Trump. And the overall percentage, you're going to get right at 50%. I think that's fantastic. That's more than George W. Bush received of the Latino vote back, I believe it was 2004. So great. People that are from Cuba, like my girlfriend from Venezuela, and probably people from Colombia and definitely Nicaragua, they've had that socialism, communism. They don't want that. They've drank that Kool-Aid, my friends, and they don't want that. They don't want socialism. Socialism, I have to admit, it sounds like a good idea on paper. When you listen to socialism on paper, everybody shares, everybody works together. We work hard as a team, and we all benefit as a result of it for the common good. Well, it sounds good, but it doesn't work. It never has worked, and it never will work. And it's incumbent upon all of us to change that indoctrination that they're filling our children with. These young kids of ours, they're being raised in these schools to be little bitty socialists. And it's very troubling, very scary. I have kids of my own. I have 7 natural kids and 2 kids that are foster kids that I've raised. And I love all my kids, no doubt about it. But I'm going to tell you something. I have some kids that think more like I think, but I got kids that are a little out there. I guess the word would be woke. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I love them to death, but they've been indoctrinated, and I'd be damned if there's anything I can do about it. I mean, they have to make up their own minds. I raised them to make their own decisions, to come up with their own thoughts, but I'd be lying to you if I told you that it's not painful for me. I pray that they get educated, that they break out of the matrix that they're in, and they see exactly what's going on around us. And I take comfort in knowing of the fact that, and I'm sure we've all been that way one way or the other, and that is when we're younger, we do things that we will not do or would not do as we're older. I guess the best way to say it is when we're younger, we know we're stupid, right? And I just hope that happens with several of my children. And my kids are very educated. They're very smart. I'm not talking about dumb individuals, but it's a fact of praying that they receive wisdom. I really can't think I can put it any better way than that. I'm sure for y'all that have children know exactly what I'm talking about. and we'll just kind of have to let it go at that. Zach, let's see, undoing wrongs is settling an example. Yes. American Nana. Yeah, you got narcissistic people. Yeah, okay, Sapphire, 25 years on RICO. I knew it was something. I knew it was something like that. I know it gets very high. And let's see. Yeah, if you guys sign up for X, I encourage you to do so. They have a fantastic platform on X. If I'm being perfectly honest again with you, I didn't really care for Twitter back in the day. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But because of issues I've had on YouTube and effectively, kind of getting a slap on the hand for certain things that I would say, I've decided to really start pushing hard on the X platform, and that's exactly what I've done. And eventually, I'll let y'all know, but I'm going to work something out to where there's some way, some venue that I can communicate with each and every one of you without having to worry about effectively violating some type of terms of service or something along there. Rosemarie Fiera, thank you for the super chat. I always appreciate you tuning in, and thank you so much for the super chat. It's kind of cute. Thank you. American Annie, we see this going on with illegals. They're receiving while our veterans, elderly and children are living on the streets. It's aggravating to me, American Anna. I hate seeing the nonsense that goes on in our government, and with the spending, we have all this money. We only have a certain amount, and we just can't keep giving it away overseas. We have to take care of our own people first and foremost. There is some truth that you can't be a complete isolationist. I get that. Every time in our history where we just cut off the world, so to speak, it leads to world war. It is true. But there is that balancing act. I mean, let's be honest about it. There's always a balancing act to where we don't have to do what we're doing today in the extreme way that we're doing it. And I think Donald Trump is definitely going to put us back on a much better path than what we're experiencing right now with the nonsense going on. All right, American Ann, you got 3 foster boys overgrown now. I know. It goes by quick, don't it? All right. Thank you again, Rosemary. And then my friend Matt. Man, you were on fire tonight. Thank you so much. Always like to have friends that are wealthy. I appreciate it. Straight up, I do appreciate it. Running this channel, I don't have like really a ton of bills. The reality is that all I normally pay for is like my software, the StreamYard software, and a few other editing tools and stuff like that. But every little bit helps. There's no doubt about it. And it does touch me that you care enough to help out. So thanks again, man. I sincerely appreciate that. American Anna, drill, baby, drill. You are exactly right, American Anna. When you are drilling for oil, that's going to bring down. I had someone actually text me, ask me, what about that drill, baby, drill? How does that work? And friends, it's very serious. It's very simple how it works. If you want to get inflation down, if you lower the cost of energy, everybody uses energy, deliveries, the lights to turn on the computer right now, whatever. When you lower the production of energy, the cost of goods, if you will, the energy that goes into making, assembling, delivering, producing, whatever adjective, noun, verb you want to put in there, when you lower the cost of energy, it de facto lowers the cost, the inflation, if you will, across the entire the spectrum of all goods and services. And it's really aggravating as much money and as wealthy as we are in the United States, as much oil as we have in the United States, that we're not allowed to use it. I mean, on day one, you had the Biden-Harris administration shut down that Keystone pipeline. What is that all about? What is going on? We had everything set to take all them oil-rich sands from Canada and bring them all the way down to the Texas refineries and refine all that. And now we have to get oil from places like Venezuela. And you've heard me say on this program before, it's not just that easy to get the oil from Venezuela. They have a lot of oil there, but it's like a tar type of oil. It's not what we see on TV with that Texas sweet crude oil where they just pop a hole and it bubbles up. It's not like that. It's very nasty. If you're one of these people that are into the environment, I mean, I love the environment too, but if you really want to reduce emissions, you don't want to refine that black, nasty oil. You'd rather have oil like we have in America. And America has a huge abundance of oil. The Biden-Harris administration has tried to block all this oil, set it up where we cannot access it. There's something called the ANWR in Alaska. They think that little strip up near the North Pole, I mean, it's just frozen solid up there. They think that little strip has more oil than Saudi Arabia. Can you imagine that? Make no mistake about it, the United States has been blessed by God in so many ways. Everything from the way that we have natural warm water ports all over the United States, in addition to the barrier islands that gracefully protect our shores, to all the natural resources we have, from oil to gold, you name it, we generally have it here in the United States. Even the Mississippi River is a blessing. It's been designed by God that 2/3 of the nation, because of the Mississippi River and its tributaries, we have easy navigation to get to it, to settle, to take products and services back and forth. I mean, it goes on and on and on, the blessings that we have. And we have leadership now that won't allow us to use these resources because they're concerned in the future the temperature might increase or decrease 1 degree. Are you kidding me? And how is it that even if we implement all this Green New scam nonsense, how is it that it's going to make one bit of difference when you have countries like China that are putting on a coal burning factory, 1 or 2 of them every week? How in the world does that work? I mean, as Al Gore would say, these are inconvenient truths. And he's right. These are inconvenient truths. Of course, I'm playing on his words there a little bit, but this is nonsense. Our leaders have been stupid. They're just not thinking correctly for whatever reason. And I'm really happy that finally we're in a situation where we have a very unique opportunity to turn all this around. I just hope we're able to get all this adjusted and turned around in time. 4 years goes by pretty quick. And the only other thing I'm worried about is the fact that the Republican Party generally has a tendency of infighting. We remember Matt Gaetz and the former Speaker of the House, when he had him evicted, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Kevin McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, when they were throwing him out because they had some squabble over whatever. I'm just saying, I hope that the fighting is at a minimum, because the enemy is not in the party. It shouldn't be in the party. We need to work together to fight the opposition, because I can assure you this, the opposition is going to be very united against each one of us. So we got to make sure that we don't allow that. We don't allow that to happen. So, and we're going to go ahead and move to this newest. America has the cleanest oil in the world and the most oil, and lithium. They just found a new huge deposit of lithium, I think up in New Mexico or Colorado or something like that. We have natural resources, folks, all over the places. I'm here telling you how wonderful and blessed the United States is, and we do good all over the world. The United States is a blessing to the world. It's a blessing to Israel. The Bible teaches us that when you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. And I think in part that's part of God's design. That's one of the many reasons the United States has been such a great country. But there are people in control, in power right now that believe the United States is evil because of the slavery nonsense and a list of other things. And they think the only way to make it right is to destroy it and start over. And I'm like, these people are crazy. They are absolutely bonkers. It's sad. Zach, Camilla saved the environment, but taken all those justly. Yeah, you see that all the time too. They will they all the time love to tell me and you what to do, not to do, but then they don't practice the same thing. So it's interesting how they always want you to do what they want you to do, but they don't want to return that in return. So let me hit back on this here. After Trump's election, future murky for Fulton RICO case against the president and Georgia allies. All right, kind of a touching on what we just talked about here, but they're kind of examining it instead of just playing the actual interview with her. It says the Georgia Court of Appeals for December 5th. So that's when they're going to hear the next case or the next hearing in this particular case on the latest developments of Fulton County racketeering indictments of President-elect Donald Trump and his allies remains on track despite the results of last week's presidential election. The state appellate court is set to hear arguments next month on the request of from the former and now incoming Republican president and several co-defendants seeking to remove Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from the 2020 presidential election interference case. The amount of uncertainty has grown around the future of the case following Trump's decisive win over Vice President Kamala Harris. And yeah, I think that is, I think that's pretty obvious and pretty clear. My prediction for these cases are dead. This Fulton County case is dead like Rover. It's dead all over. There's no way that this case is going to proceed, at least under Fani Willis. It's just not going to happen. Now, it is possible that it can be handed off to another prosecutor somewhere in the state of Georgia who wants to take that case and take up that mantle against a very powerful and incoming president of the United States. In addition to that, my opinion is the president could simply pardon himself. In addition to that, the Supreme Court has already ruled that he cannot be held accountable effectively for his acts as president of the United States. It's going to take forever to litigate what's an official act, what's a different type of act. There's just too much there to litigate. It's just going to take forever for that to work its way through the courts or whatever's going on. So I think that I think they're barking up the wrong tree. Come here, bud. I got my special guest with us tonight, and his mother just got home. So I'm going to let him say hello, and then we'll continue our chat. This is my buddy Dexter here. Yeah, say hello. Okay, he wants to go see his mother. So, at any rate, I'm sure y'all all have your dogs and cats and stuff that you love. So it's easy to go down that path with your dogs when they're upset. But don't worry about these cases. These cases are over, and I think that the lawfare is going to be put an end to by people like the hopefully incoming Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Don't worry about all the nonsense with people saying, we need to effectively get rid of him, or he's not going to be able to be effectively confirmed by the Senate. Because the reason for that is I believe that at a minimum, they will simply, and they've already kind of agreed to this. I think what they're going to do is they're going to promote him via like a recess appointment. If the Senate decides to adjourn for 10 days or so, they can simply take the position de facto without Senate confirmation. It will last for 2 years, but that's okay. They'll have a new Congress by that time frame. 2 years will be plenty enough time for them to get acquainted with the job and see what kind of job they're able to do and whatever over whatever agency they're there to protect. The reason why these recess appointments started was a long time ago when the country was first formed. They didn't meet all year like they kind of do now. They generally would meet maybe, 5 or 6 months out of the year. Well, if someone needed to be appointed or someone resigned, they couldn't easily get back together right away to convene. So they started this recess appointment situation. And like I said, it will last up to 2 years. And I think that's how President Trump is going to appoint some of these nominees. And I think it's a great idea. That's the reason why before they had the Senate leadership election, they were very clear, Donald Trump was anyways, and then everybody echoed this back on X saying, hey, we agree, we will allow for these recess appointments. But again, we'll just have to see exactly how that plays out. Now, a few things I want to touch on right here. Are you all aware, and this just kind of shows you what happens when you have this lawfare and this nonsense that's going on, but I have to tell you about the story. Are y'all familiar with Polymarket? Well, Polymarket, the CEO, FBI raided a home of Polymark's CEO over alleged illegal bets by U.S. users. Isn't it interesting? This is the company that accurately predicted the election going to Donald Trump. They've been very consistent with their predictions on President Trump winning it. And now all of a sudden they get raided by the FBI again. I just don't believe it's coincidental is what I'm trying to tell you. I don't think so whatsoever. The FBI's shocking pre-dawn raid. So they raid these people's houses. This is a very wealthy young man, owns this poly market, and they think it's okay to raid his home before dawn. It says raid against the founder of election gambling site Polymarket was part of a criminal probe into whether the startup accepted bets from U.S. users. That's the serious major crime here, folks. His platform allegedly allowed U.S. individuals to bid on the presidential election. And the funny thing is, it's legal to bet on a presidential election now here in the United States. Apparently, they're accusing him of violating some type of technicality, but it's such a serious situation, they had to raid his family's home early in the morning. I don't know if this guy's got kids or what. Can you imagine the police, like they did to President-elect Donald Trump, raid his home pre-dawn with guns blazing? You can imagine what it looked like. It looked like something out of a SWAT movie. This is ridiculous. This is something that should change in our society. I don't know what's going on with these people. It's clearly, in my opinion, at least it's highly suspected by me as some type of retribution, because this guy dared to bet that Donald Trump would win the election. It says it's part of a criminal probe into whether startup accepted bets from U.S. users, which would violate a deal the company had made with the government. The Post has learned. The Department of Justice ordered Wednesday's court-authorized law enforcement activity at the Manhattan apartment of Shay Copeland as part of its investigation with the FBI, sources told the Post. As the Post exclusively reported, the feds executed a search warrant to seize electronic devices, including the phone of Copeland, a 26-year-old tech whiz behind the popular site that correctly predicted Donald Trump's easy victory over Vice President Kamala Harris last week, outperforming polls forecasting a close race. Isn't that amazing? What do you guys think about that? That's highly suspicious. You know me, I don't believe in coincidental anything. And the fact that this happened right after the election just seems highly suspect. And what do you guys think? Is it really justified to have this type of raid on your home pre-dawn, guns blazing, to get your cell phone and to get some other electronics? It just seems to me the law should change. If this guy was a major mob figure, if he was, I don't know, he was selling children, some kind of serious criminal activity like that, okay, maybe I could understand that. But he's accused, or his company's accused, of allowing people from the U.S. to use his site to bet. Are you kidding me? I don't know. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree. It just sounds like a bunch of nonsense to me. One of the many things that needs to change in our country. So I hope that I hope other people start thinking about things that are in the news from time to time like this. It just seems overkill in my humble estimation. So, all right, I want to dive into exactly what's been going on in the news today. We're very familiar now. We went over some of the actual nominees that the president has put forward, President Trump-elect. I found this video on News Nation between Bill O'Reilly. We're all familiar with Bill O'Reilly. Now, he's definitely gotten older. You can tell when you listen to him. He's an older man, but he's still, in my opinion, he's still very wise, very sharp, and I think we can benefit by listening to a little bit of this. He's explaining the unique way that President-elect Donald Trump is setting up his team of advisors, his all these nominees, exactly how he's setting it up, because this time around, he has learned from his mistakes from before. You know, the first time you're doing something, you probably look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done this, this, and this. Well, guess what? In this particular situation, he's setting up a structure more like a businessman would set it up, so that he can make sure that the people he is putting in this position, or these positions, are doing what he has put them there to do. I think it's a great idea. But let's take a listen to this for a little bit, and then we can talk about it on the other side. Here we go.
Describe me is it in your monologue?
Are you a
It's
conservative?
a little misleading. I'm not.
Are
no,
you
I'm
a conservative?
Traditional independent. I just said no.
Whatever.
I'm a traditional
All right.
independent.
I've heard you say you're a conservative
Go ahead.
before. I've heard you say that, but go
No,
ahead.
you haven't.
Of these picks, oh yes, I have, but that's okay.
Yes.
Of these picks, what do you believe is remarkable of the picks?
I don't think anything's remarkable. I understand the picks, but let me put it into perspective, unlike 95% of television pundits. So the two most powerful people in the country beside President Trump are Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, and Stephen Miller, who is the deputy chief of policy. Now, I've never even heard of that before, but what Miller is going to be assigned to do is watch all of the other cabinet people to make sure they do what Donald Trump wants. So Miller becomes the confidant to the president of the United States. I know Miller pretty well. Now, you talk about a big-time conservative, that would be Stephen Miller, not Bill O'Reilly. And I first ran across Miller in the Duke lacrosse case, where he defended the lacrosse player.
You guys have seen him before, I'm sure, even recently, as effectively going to be Donald Trump's right hand man, if you will. And I think it's interesting the way Bill O'Reilly is explaining this. This is going to be the guy essentially cracking the whip to make sure everybody else is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Who were unmercifully brutalized by the American press, and then that whole story fell apart. Miller was in the middle of that as a very young man. And he is a guy I can get on the phone and he'll tell me the truth about anything I ask him. And that's over the years. Now this man, Stephen Miller, is extremely powerful. And everybody in Trump's cabinet will know that. Susie Wiles is the whisperer. Okay? So when Trump goes over the line, Susie will try to pull him back. Very powerful woman. I don't know her, but I know how she operates, and she's very level-headed, in my opinion. What else you want to know tonight from the big-time conservative?
She hasn't gotten enough. I don't know why you're denying that, but that's okay. She is not getting enough positive attention for being the first woman ever picked to be chief of staff. If it were a Democrat who had done that, it would have been celebrated in the media, but because it's Trump, they don't. No, it matters. It matters that it's the first woman who's doing it. When they're over half the population, it's a good move.
You know, I think that's an interesting point that he just brought up. Chroma right here. He's been talking much more like a conservative recently, which doesn't surprise me. But his point was, hey, if this woman was appointed by a Democrat, this would be news 24/7 for quite some time. She's the first woman to be the chief of staff, right? So it's just interesting how they treat Donald Trump, the Republicans, differently than they would if it was a Democrat. Again, I don't like this identity politics, if you will, but the facts are the facts. I think that's a good observation.
All right, Jill Biden was the first one. She ran a White House for the last 8 months. I don't like the gender stuff. I mean, I just want people who love their country, want to do good for the American people, and invoke policies that are positive. I don't know, again, Ms. Wiles, I can't evaluate her other than I know people within the campaign, and they say she is not some kind of ideological loon. She's very practical.
Right. I mean, look, my point is that diversity of thought, diversity of perspective is always helpful. I'm not talking about just checking a box. I'm saying that by all accounts, she was fundamental to his success, and her appointment would be celebrated if it wasn't by Trump. Now, Miller, you didn't express any concerns about him. This guy is a constant red flag for us.
Well, I don't think he's a red flag. I think he's an ideal pick, and I think that I think it's interesting and applaudable exactly how Donald Trump is putting his team together, and I think it was definitely worth mentioning what we just talked about, because I never thought of it quite that way. He goes on to talk about that there have been other presidents that have tried something like Donald Trump is effectively setting up, but they generally have not done it exactly the way Donald Trump is doing it. It's definitely what you would call a businessman, for lack of a better term, approach to government. And it's going to be interesting to see how well or how effective it is that he's able to pull this off. And I think I applaud him for it personally. I think it's going to be fantastic. So a few more things I want to talk about real quick on the X platform here. Folks, listen to me carefully. One of the things that is definitely a red alarm bell going off in my head, flashing big time. And we talk about it here, and I'm going to continue talking about it as long as the Lord gives me a voice to speak. And that is free speech is under very serious attack right now as I speak. Right now in Britain, there are people in prison, many people in prison right now, because they had the gall to post something on X, on Facebook, on Instagram that upset somebody else. I'm not making this up. They have it now in many places in the EU, South America, and other countries. I believe Italy also is part of the EU, that if you upset somebody by something that you post, you can and will be arrested for it and in prison. There's a report, I got it somewhere in here, we'll see if we get to it, but they were talking about just in the last few days, there have been hundreds of people visited by the authorities in Britain asking them about posts they have made on social media that have been reported or found by the police. And this is one of the reasons I believe that Elon Musk has been such a fierce supporter for Donald Trump. You want to know why he's been spending $1 million a day giving away money in his lottery or his campaign? I mean, you got the wealthiest man in the world that's been in the state of Pennsylvania for a month before Election Day, drilling every single day to say, hey, please come out and vote for President Donald Trump. And I forgot exactly how much money he has spent, but he has spent many, many millions of dollars in support of Donald Trump. I think it's 100, 200 million. Does that sound right? That's what I heard. And he's doing that for a reason. And the reason is he's afraid he's going to go to jail if a Democrat takes over. And I can assure you that's a real possibility. Look what they just did to former President Donald Trump. Look what they have done and they're continuing to do to not only Donald Trump, but supporters of Donald Trump from the last administration. Elon Musk is very concerned that he would be next. He's already made the comment several times on different things that I've been following where he says, I will only travel to countries now that have free speech as part of their constitution. You may or may not be familiar with a platform called Telegram. Well, it's a Russian-owned platform or somebody from Russia owns it. And this individual, just like Musk, he essentially ignored warnings from people in the EU, the authorities there, telling them to stop allowing certain things on his platform. Well, he was arrested in France. It's been 2 or 3 weeks ago now. He's now dealing with very heavy legal charges, if you will, in France. I'm going to continue to follow that story as it develops. Make no mistake about it, Elon Musk is very worried about the same fate. This guy here that we're going to take a listen to right now, he's going to tell you what I just told you and exactly how this war on misinformation, disinformation, free speech, if you will, is going down and how they are going to try to really push this on the American population. Remember that one video we looked at? It's been a while now, but you had the government, the British government, telling people in America, don't think you're safe just because you're America or you're American citizens. We will extradite you for a post you put on the internet. I'm not making this up. Now, I won't get into the conversation as to whether or not he has the authority to do that. Basically, the answer is highly, highly, highly improbable that they would be able to do that. It's a long story about how extraditions work. So you don't have to be concerned about that. But I'm telling you, this is how bold these woke Nazi type individuals, I guess that's the best word I can use for Nazi. These people are insane on how they're trying to take away our free speech rights. But don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and listen to this. This was posted, I think, it was by the Vigilant Fox. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed on X to their channel,
But I'm just curious your
I
thoughts
encourage you to do so. So let me blow this up here and let's listen to this for a minute or two, because I think you'll get a benefit out of it.
But I'm just curious your thoughts on how you think they will be able to continue to wage, censorship warfare in a post-Trump victory era.
Yeah, they have two main strategies for this. There's the state strategy, and then there's the global strategy. So the state strategy is going to involve a whole swarm of new state laws: California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Illinois, all the big blue states. There's going to be a big push by the censorship industry activists there to codify laws that put restrictions on the kind of content that social media platforms can host. And their goal there is going to be to balkanize the country and create a sort of market disruption, so that the only tech companies who are allowed to proliferate that kind of content there, lest they lose their ability to operate in the state or suffer heavy revenue fines, are going to be the ones who comply with those content restrictions. They're also going to use a push around something called media literacy, which is those states are going to box out social media platforms that allow free speech and box out news institutions like the War Room, in order to prevent them from being accessed in public Wi-Fi's, in order to be able to prevent them from being cited in high school or middle school or elementary school exams. You already see this. A major push to start that effort began in 2021. It really began in 2017, but it's escalated dramatically in the past few years. And it will fall on effectively the legal system to enforce the First Amendment against these states, which are going to try to create state level restrictions on what the platforms can host. But that's one battle at home. The second battle is that.
And you already have governors of these blue states coming out in force, and they're going to try this type of nonsense. You have Gavin Newsom of California. He already tried passing a law right before the election, trying to stop people like Elon Musk from posting certain memes on the internet. And of course, that was quickly overturned in court. But they're going to keep trying, and they're going to keep coming at us. Make no mistake about it.
We are about to witness a replay of the transatlantic flank attack, as I call it, from the immediate aftermath of the 2016 election. They blamed the 2016 election on free speech. And that is what gave rise to the creation of the censorship industry that spans all of NATO and now beyond, which is that they were out of power after 2016. Just like now, Democrats lost the executive branch, they lost the House, and they lost the Senate, all there in 2016. And so what they did in order to get the ball rolling on censorship is you had these exiles from the Hillary Clinton State Department and the John Kerry State Department take their special set of skills, which is back channeling with foreign regulators and foreign diplomats, to do shadow diplomacy, to essentially leverage their financial heft, to leverage the favors that they can repay once they return to power, in order to get foreign governments to institute censorship restrictions on American companies that were hosting pro-Trump content or pro-Trump accounts. So that was a sort of transatlantic flank attack.
Now, he's exactly right. This is what we have to worry about going forward, is these attacks by these foreign governments trying to influence our free speech rights here in America. And one of the many ways they're going to try to do that, like he just explained, is they're going to put this pressure on our companies, such as the X platform. Of course, it's owned and operated by Elon Musk. The good news here, to cut to the chase, is there is a way to fight back, and there is hope, thank God again, for Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, going back to office. One of the main ways to fight back against this is through Marco Rubio, who's going to be the next Secretary of State. And we have to use the influence that the United States has to put a stop to this nonsense. And basically the way you do that is the traditional things that you know about. We bring pressure on all these countries to stop, to reverse these laws, this nonsense they're trying to implement against effectively Americans and American businesses. And it works very easily. Either stop it or we're going to stop doing business with you. Another heavy, heavy hammer that the United States has in its arsenal, one of the big hammers, one of my favorite hammers that I know will definitely work, especially in the EU, because they are scared to death of Russia coming across the country and effectively invading their countries and taking them over. So the way to push that lever, so to speak, is real simple. If you don't knock it off, we're going to disinvite you to NATO. That right there will get the hair on the back of their neck standing up really quick. I can assure you that. And there's 2 or 3 other ways that it can be done. But basically, when you want to bring about change in another country, you do it through cash, money, their economy. And NATO is not necessarily military force, but it's kind of like a de facto military force. They definitely don't want to be left solo out there by themselves without the protection of NATO, aka the United States, and the vast military resources that we all have. Does that make any sense, everybody? All right, friends, I'm going to start landing the plane right now. I want to let you all know that I sincerely appreciate everybody being here tonight and having this discussion. I think discussing these issues, these problems that we're having, all the stuff going on here in the United States right now, and the changes that we need to implement. This is the way to bring about the change that is needed. Putting a stop to this indoctrination, teaching each and every one of us, and the people that are not only listening to us today, but that will listen to us as this video is played over and over in the days, if not years to come, is we get the message out that listen, you can live your best life possible, but you got to make sure our country is strong. You got to make sure you're strong. You got to make sure you educate your kids on all things about freedom, all things about America, how to deal with the police appropriately, how not to get yourself where you're having your house raided like the poor dude on Poly Market. Of course, there's never no guarantees in life, but you need to understand how to deal with all these things in your life as they come up. I mean, I think it's just that simple. So before I go, I want to thank everybody who has taken time to join me today. Matt, I definitely appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for the super chats. Rosemarie Fiera, always appreciate having you in the chat. And again, Matt, thank you for your kindness and generosity, my friend. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks for the help with the channel. If you're still with me, might as well hit the thumbs up button before you go. Be sure to subscribe. It helps out the algorithms and it pushes this message out. Make sure you turn your bell notifications on, because when I go live on YouTube or on the X platform, you'll be the first to know it's time to have a meeting. If you're on X, hit that heart. Be sure to click the subscribe, or what they call it there, the follow button. I think I just broke over 500 on there today. So woohoo, I'm real happy about that. And I appreciate each and every one of your support. And on YouTube, of course, I'm always at JR Dukes. Same handle on the True Social platform at JR Dukes. The only thing different is X at Reach JR Duke. Again, appreciate everybody being here with me today. As I always say, my friends, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, I am JR Duke.